Downsizing your home. Today, we're going to talk about 10 of the most common things people notice throughout their home and in their lives before they make that decision to downsize. Plus, we'll talk about some of the benefits of downsizing and give you a few pointers to get you started in the right direction. Are you or your loved one thinking about downsizing your home? Today, we're going to talk about 10 of the most common things people notice throughout their home and in their lives before they make that decision to downsize. Plus, we'll talk about some of the benefits of downsizing and give you a few pointers to get you started in the right direction. My name's Andrea West. I've been a realtor since 2010, and I'm a senior real estate specialist. Myself and hundreds of my colleagues at my company throughout North America have gone through additional education and training with the National Association of Realtors to earn the SRES designation. So we work with buyers and sellers of all ages. But when we work with seniors, we have a higher level of understanding and additional resources that we can help seniors and their family members take a little bit of that stress out of what might feel like an overwhelming situation. So whether it's you or your loved one and you're looking to move in 9 days or 90 days, I'd love to meet with you. Give me a call, shoot me a text, or send me an email. My contact information is below. I also have a QR code in my banner if you want to book a meeting with me. Let's get into the 10 things you're going to notice before you might decide to downsize. So what is downsizing anyway? Because we throw that term around a lot. What does that even mean? Well, the term downsizing refers to taking something that is too large and then making it smaller. So going down. I actually don't like that phrase because the term downsizing connotates like you're losing something, like something is going smaller, when honestly, that's not the case. A lot of situations, it's actually right sizing because you're taking something that is too large, that's too big, that no longer fits your needs. And then, yes, exchanging for something that does fit your needs. And oftentimes it's not just size, it's function. So it's taking something that might be 2,500 square feet, but it's got 3 flights of stairs throughout the home and moving, laterally to something that's also 2,500 square feet, but that's all on one level. So it's a right size rather than a downsize, but that term downsize is out there a lot. Plus, a lot of seniors these days aren't even buying houses again. They're turning around, they're moving to retirement communities and moving in with family or building ADUs and then renting out their house and living in the ADU, or building an ADU at their kid's house and then living in the back. Or a lot of people are even buying RVs and then traveling the country or traveling around the world. I mean, the sky's the limit on what you can do. It's not all about having these big houses anymore. It's about having something that fits your lifestyle and your needs. And that's really what we're talking about today. So let's start taking a look at those 10 things that you might do before you decide to right size your new home. Number 10, probably the most obvious, you have more space than you need. Now, chances are you purchased your home maybe a few decades ago with the intent to raise a family, have a few kids, maybe a couple pets, have all these fun activities, family get-togethers. Chances are you just don't need all that space anymore. So that's going to bring us to number 9. Number 9 is you have additional rooms that aren't being used the way that they were intended. Now, that can mean different things, but if your kids have moved out, maybe you still have things in their bedrooms that belong to them. It's anything like my parents' house. You've still got posters on the walls, trophies on the shelves, sports memorabilia, or things that they were really into, old school books and yearbooks and all that fun stuff. Maybe even some of the kids' furniture is still in there. I know sometimes people end up keeping the bedrooms just the way they did when their kids were living there. Now, in other situations, more like my mom, they ended up adding things into those bedrooms in addition to what was there before, or maybe instead of, right? And they move some of that stuff in storage. Rampant consumerism is on the rise, especially in the United States. So it's no surprise that several people, not just seniors, but millions of people throughout the country are buying more things than they need, which means sale here, buy one, get one there, Black Friday here, Prime Day here. Before you know it, you're starting to fill these rooms with so much stuff. And that's honestly part of the cycle. If you have the space, the mentality of, well, I can just get one more thing here or there tends to come into the forefront of people's minds a lot more often than if they just have less space to be storing all that stuff to begin with. So more space equals more stuff, which equals more money people are spending on things, which brings us to number 8. The cost of living in a home that's more space than you need can really add up. Everything from utility bills to maintenance. So thinking about that gas and electric bill, thinking about the water bill, thinking about the homeowner's insurance. And if you're in certain parts of the country, homeowner's insurance can be really expensive. And the larger the home you have, or maybe a home in an area that's more vulnerable, can be really costly. Not to mention the exterior of the home. So you've got things like gardening, exterior landscaping maintenance. And if you're like me, you have a black thumb and you can't do it yourself, because I walk by plants and they die immediately, especially cactus. So that being said, you might be paying more for monthly maintenance costs and bills than you would if you were in a smaller home. In addition to kind of regular monthly costs and maintenance and utility bills, what happens, especially with people who've been in their homes for a few decades, there's a lot of other maintenance that goes into owning a home that a lot of people don't think about. And it happens to all of us. It's super common. We call it deferred maintenance. Deferred maintenance is usually something that is not visible or easily noticed by people when they come home every day, right? It's not like the light bulb going out where you're like, oh, I need to change the light bulb, or it's not like the lawn needs to get watered. It's the little things that start to change and wear over the years. And it takes a long time for those things to start breaking down. And it takes a really long time for people to start noticing. You know that phrase, you don't know what you don't know? Deferred maintenance for me is at the top of that list when I'm thinking about people selling their home. Because when we go to do those inspections, they get this long list of deferred maintenance items, and they didn't even realize that they had them. They had no idea that they even needed to deal with these things. Number one that I see all the time is wood destroying organisms. So things like termites, dry rot, fungus, beetles. These are all things that happen over years without people knowing they're even going on. Then there's the other components of your house, like your electrical systems, your plumbing, your heating and cooling system, your water heater, and then your piping as well. I know for me, we had old galvanized pipes when we bought our house, and the water pressure over the years got really small. We ended up upgrading to copper, which a lot of homeowners do nowadays. These are all things that millions of homeowners every year don't even think about. It's kind of that old saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Well, guess what? A lot of these things do break down and we don't even know. So having a larger home means more of these components breaking down without us even knowing. And that's okay, it happens, but they're much more costly to fix when the time comes to actually fix them. Just another reason to think about possibly saving some money if you're having a smaller home, because there is less maintenance and less to think about. That leads us to number 7. You may be finding that you have less money in your monthly budget to do the things that bring you joy. And honestly, a lot of people that are in these homes that are larger than they need end up spending so much of their hard-earned retirement, pension, and Social Security money just funding things to keep up their house, to clean their house, to pay the bills. And they might be missing out on some of the other amazing things that they want to be doing, like traveling, going out to eat, doing extra hobbies and activities. You worked hard for your money for so many years and saved up. You deserve to enjoy it. You deserve to travel. You deserve to be spending time with family and doing the things that you want to do. I think a lot of people, when they take a look at their budget and they look at what they're spending their money on and how much they're spending on their home, even if they've paid it off, just to maintain it, sometimes they end up being really surprised at the percentage of what they bring home going to their house versus going to the things that they love doing. Number 6, is the location of your house still optimal for you? And for a lot of people, they find that the things in their lives change, and the reason they are in their location may not be what works with them today. So maybe you bought to be in a good school district for the kids, or maybe you are somewhere more rural because you enjoyed the outdoor amenities and activities of raising a family and having all that outdoor space. Or maybe you're somewhere that has got a bigger yard and you're more in a suburban location. But what if you need things like public transit, access to hospitals, public services? What if you don't want to be outside of town and it takes 15 or 20 minutes to get into town? Because what if there's an emergency? Or you want to be able to go see your friends and family that don't live close to you anymore? These are all reasons to reconsider your location. If the people you love and the things you enjoy doing are not convenient to you anymore, and perhaps the amenities that you need aren't as accessible as they once were for reasons that happen with aging. Perhaps you don't like driving at night anymore, or perhaps you can't drive anymore and you need public transit options. Thinking about moving somewhere that might be more urban, or moving in or closer to family, or into a retirement community, or to somewhere else that has more of the amenities and services that you need closer by, often can be a good reason to consider moving. That might not even be downsizing, but it might be right-sizing and relocating to a better location for you. A lot of times people find if they're having a hard time getting around or getting to and from the things that they love and need, they might be a little less happy in their life. And that's number 5. Oftentimes people find that when they have too much space, or they're in a location that no longer works for them, their mood is down. They can be depressed, they can be lonely, they can be anxious. They can find it's really hard to make friends or to go do the activities and socialization that they once did. And then they can feel isolated and alone. Not to mention, sometimes having too much space in your house can also feel very lonely, because now all of those rooms aren't occupied and there's maybe less people or no one else living with you. Keeping your mental health in perspective and remembering to balance that with the rest of your life is essential. Sometimes when thinking about changing a location, you may want to think about a change of community as well. There are several retirement and assisted living communities out there that a lot of seniors really enjoy, love, and thrive in, because they have a community, several other people around them every day, tons of activities. I know I've had several clients downsize and move into these communities and found so much more joy in their lives and really found themselves thriving instead of just living. Another advantage to downsizing or living in one of these retirement communities as well is your house is a little more tailored to your needs, and that can help a lot if you have mobility and health changes. And that's number 4, keeping your physical mobility and health in mind, because as we get older and age, everything changes. Some things become a little bit harder, some things are a little bit slower. My father lived to be 92 years old, and the last few decades of his life, I definitely saw a decline in his activity and what he was able to do. My dad, even when he went on his walk, sometimes he'd fall, and it was really scary. So when we think about mobility, we have to think about accommodating what fits your life now. What is the best solution? What is the best activity? What is the best lifestyle and living situation for you now? So things like stairs, for being the biggest one, can be often really intimidating and scary for somebody to have to deal with on a daily basis when they have mobility issues. My mom ended up getting both her knees replaced. She had all her bedrooms upstairs at her house, and she ended up sleeping downstairs for a month because she couldn't do the stairs at all. And yes, for my mom, she did recover from the knee surgery and was able to do stairs. But for my dad, it ended up being a lot harder for him on the stairs. He was 20 years older than her, so it was more challenging for him to keep up physically. Another reason your home's form and function may not work anymore, in addition to possibly physical restraints, cognitive abilities do decline over time. My father had a very slow-moving progressive Alzheimer's, and we all saw him go through it. He had it for at least 10 or 15 years before he passed. But it was something that I'm really glad we knew the signs and symptoms of early on, so that we could start making accommodations a little bit sooner than he was going to speak up and say he needed for. I mean, things like the stairs are number 1. And there's also the safety aspect of cognitive decline, because then you can leave things on like the stove or the oven and forget it's on and then set off the smoke alarm or possibly cause a fire. Leaving the water running and things can overflow and flood, spilling water on the ground, forgetting to clean it up and falling. I mean, these are just a couple examples of things that I know we would always keep in mind in our house when it came to my parents, especially my father, for so many years, because we knew what to look for with cognitive decline. And a lot of people, especially if they live alone, they don't notice it happening. Their loved ones sometimes have to be the first ones to notice. And if you don't live with your loved one, it can be hard to catch that right away. Something that for most people can creep up very slowly. So a lot of people don't notice it right away. But I think it's a really important reason to think about switching your living location to accommodate your needs now. I know cognitive decline is not something that we like to talk about, but it is a very real thing that happens to several seniors. Over 7 million people in the United States have Alzheimer's alone. It's so so important to be having these conversations and recognizing the signs and then making accommodations for people so that they can have the support that they need. That may be moving to a memory care or assisted living community that works with people with Alzheimer's and cognitive decline. Whether it's a potential physical or cognitive decline or both, those can be really good reasons to think about switching your living situation, whether it be to a retirement, an assisted living, or downsizing or living with family. Number 3 might be financial need or gain. Now, you might be thinking, well, we talked about that a little with the additional expenses, but let's look at it from another angle. Maybe now you're recognizing, in addition to spending too much money on your house, you want to have more money in your bank account. And you deserve it. You should. You should have more money in your bank account because you worked hard for several years, for decades, to earn the money that you have, to build the equity in your home, to have everything that you have and have earned. And that's a beautiful thing. The term house rich and cash poor comes into play far too often, especially with seniors. Because like many seniors, you may have bought your home several decades ago when the prices were a quarter, an eighth, maybe a 20th of what they are today, which means you have a lot of equity in your home, especially if you've already paid off your mortgage, which is an amazing thing. You might be sitting on $1 million property and $1 million in equity, but you may not have that much money in your bank account. Thinking about what you worked hard for so many years, what you were earning for it, your legacy, what you have in your home is a wonderful thing, but putting it to work for you, cashing out on your investment and using that money for what you want, what you need, now is what you worked so hard for. Because in retirement, you should really be enjoying the fruit of your labor. So a lot of people think about taking the equity out of their home, buying something smaller, and then having a big chunk of change in that bank account to fund what they really want to be doing in their lives or pay for what they really need. Could be medical bills, could be travel expenses, could be other debts that they've incurred over the years that maybe just need to get paid. Could be spending money on those grandkids or going to travel, take them to Disneyland, or putting money in their college fund. Could be investing in something else. I mean, the sky's the limit. It's your money. You should do what you want and deserve with it. So while having an amazing large home can be a wonderful thing, if you're not using it the way that you want, that money might just be better put to use if it's in your bank account so you can use it, rather than maybe sitting in your house and racking up bills of maintenance and high costs of living. So that brings us to number 2. My local market is great for sellers right now. And that might be the case, and that's awesome and good for you if it is. But in my opinion, that shouldn't be the only reason you're downsizing, is to capitalize on a seller's market. I think it's so important to cash out and get your money and use it how you want. But I think it's even more important to have a plan. It's even more important to know where you're going, know what you want, and know the reason that you're selling behind it. Plus, it's nearly impossible to chase the market. I feel like people all the time are trying to sell high and buy low. And chances are, if you're selling high and then you're buying in the same market, probably going to buy high too. Now, if you're moving somewhere else, that's an added bonus. Maybe you're buying in another market where it's a little bit less expensive, or maybe it's a buyer's market and you're selling in a seller's market, then kudos to you. You really timed it well. And then tell me your secret, because I'd love to share it with everyone. Let's round out this list with the number 1 thing people recognize in their lives before they make that decision to downsize. Honestly, it's just that they've been thinking about it. And the fact that you even tuned in and watched this episode is telling me that you are thinking about it. We find so often that people think about downsizing for several weeks, months, or sometimes even years before they make that decision to put it in motion. It may seem overwhelming to put plans in motion now to downsize, but the longer you wait, the harder it becomes. There's more work to do to get yourself in a position to downsize. And the more years that go by means more things that are accumulated, which means more things that have to get cleaned up and packed up, which means more things that have gone unmaintained, more expenses that have either gotten more expensive, or debt that's incurred to take care of things, possibly around the house or with health and other things in your life. Oftentimes people put off downsizing a lot longer than they should, to be quite honest with you. And when they finally do downsize, we find the vast majority of people say they wish they'd done it sooner. They wish they'd started downsizing when they first thought about it, because it can be such a freeing experience to feel like something that's been hanging over your head, something that's been saddling or burdening you for so many years has finally been let go, has finally been freed, so that you can make room for things in your life that really bring you joy, that you can start spending your time, your energy, and your money the way you want to be spending it, not just maintaining your house, not just paying the bills, not just living, paycheck or social security check or retirement check to retirement check. A large majority of people find that the benefits of downsizing can oftentimes outweigh the benefits of staying in a home that doesn't fit their lifestyle anymore, for all of the reasons that we went through. So whether it's you or your loved one thinking about downsizing or recognizing that maybe the time is coming, I'd love to meet with you. My QR code is in my banner. My contact information is below. You can call, text, or email me anytime. I'm here to help. Remember, your goals are my business. Till next time.